The first rebuild is over. The second one is already underway. Let's talk about the future of the Chicago White Sox with Baseball America's Geoff Pontes next on the CHGO White Sox podcast. Welcome to the CHGO White Sox podcast, coming to you live from Studio West of the West, in the CHGO offices in the West Loop of Chicago. I miss Studio B, Sarah. I'm Sean Anderson. Alongside me, Sarah Fichter. B looks better, but it doesn't have the homey feel.
I do not miss B.
Okay,
but that's just my personal opinion.
Coming to you live from Studio West here in the West Loop of Chicago at the CHGO studios. I am Sean Anderson, host of the CHGO White Sox podcast. We had an emergency podcast for you last night reacting to the Luis Robert Jr. trade. So if you want my initial thoughts, you can go watch that from last night. We have about 36 minutes on that. But today we're talking about the future, what's next for the Chicago White Sox, and how fitting. I didn't know this when we reached out, but Baseball America just released their top 100 prospect list. So let's go talk to Baseball America's Geoff Pontes. How fitting. Hi, Geoff.
Hey, man. How's it going? Happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you. Second time you were on. Last time you were on, you told me Caleb Bonemer is Gunnar Henderson, and now he's a top 30 prospect. So I'm thrilled to have you on. Can't wait to hear what you're going to tell me now. Welcome in. And real kismet that you guys just put out the preseason top 100. 6 White Sox in that top 100, and I'm just going to get greedy. Let's just start at the bottom. I'm surprised Tanner McDougal made it, but not like mad. I've thought that this is a possible rotation piece for the White Sox this year. What does Baseball America see in McDougal?
Yeah, I mean, it's really loud stuff. I was one of the bigger advocates to kind of get him onto the list. Yeah, once we get back to we'll say 89, 88, somewhere in that range, we're sort of picking favorites amongst a tight group of guys that are eligible based on their actual grades. McDougal's one that I've kind of been hammering for the last 3 or 4 months, and it's just the combination of just the step forward in strike throwing. And I think that's the biggest thing. Even beyond what the walk rates are showing you on your Fangraphs page or whatever, the underlying stuff, he was in the zone a lot more with all of his pitches. It's really, really nasty stuff. It's one of the hardest throwers on the top 100, sitting in the upper 90s, 97, 98, touching 100 plus miles per hour with ride. There's just not a lot of guys that are doing that. And McDougal has secondaries to back it up that miss bats. And, I look at sort of, the still projection that's there in terms of just figuring out some of the final finishing touches of starting pitching in the major leagues, which I think is an overlooked aspect of this. A lot of guys, including Clayton Kershaw, kind of get their teeth kicked in that first sort of test in the major leagues. And it's a matter of seeing what it's like, seeing what they're facing, and then making adjustments off of that. But he's got all of these sort of foundational tools to at least be a number 3 starter, in my opinion. Big swing and miss stuff, big fastball. And, I think when you look at what the White Sox have done with Brian Bannister sort of within their player development regime, there's a lot of guys that have taken steps forward. And, he's got traits that you can accentuate as well. So I was excited to get McDougal onto the list. I think he's very much a viable top 100 prospect, and his 2025 season really showed that.
Yeah, glad to hear it. I know that there is some age discrepancy between him and AA, but as you said, now with Stuff Plus models, just the stuff plays and it looks like major league stuff. One guy that didn't make it that I could contend might be better a prospect than McDougal is Christian Opper. Any battles for Opper in that 89 to 100 spot, or is he just a little far off?
No, he was still within the conversation. I think it's just obviously left-handed power. Little bit less interesting, release traits. There's some of that stuff. Now he's left-handed and he throws super hard. So on its face, that's already, half the battle as a lefty. You don't see that sort of velocity from the left side. I actually think would be like him and Liam Doyle if he was on the top 100 list for hardest throwers in terms of lefties. So he's within that mix of players that will say go from like 75 to like 150, because it's, as the list expands, you get into much bigger tiers, right? There's only, a handful of like elite guys at the top. So he's sort of within that like top 100 adjacent territory. Certainly was a guy that I think, depending upon which evaluators you spoke with, could be on the list. It's a slower breaking ball, and I think there's maybe some concerns with that, but it definitely moves a lot, and there are some traits there. Will be interesting to see sort of how he progresses over the next year. But at the very least, I think could be like a lights out, maybe multi-inning reliever if the starting thing doesn't work. Definitely not writing him off as a starter, just kind of giving you an idea of what the ceiling versus the floor is.
Oh, absolutely. He was a surprise last year, and just the fact that he's even in contention, again, I'll take it as a White Sox fan. Next up is Billy Carlson. With Carlson, it's more, what have you learned since the draft, if anything? And with players that are high school players making that jump, you typically don't see them joining A ball or rookie ball at all. Have you learned anything specifically about Carlson since July?
No, there's really nothing new. And like where he was ranked on our draft rankings had him within the top 100 conversation. Might have even been on the end of year list, like toward the back. There's usually, we'll say, like 9 to 10 players from the draft class that, end up on the top 100 list at the end of the season. They're also sort of easy guys to add as players, of course, graduate as they exceed service time limits, et cetera, no longer a prospect or rookie eligible, which happens up until, the final day of the season. And, I sort of think the thing with Carlson is, number one, you're getting a 70 defender at shortstop. There's not a lot of guys that come into pro ball, especially out of the high school ranks, that, can pick it. And you just have no questions about this guy being a shortstop long-term. He's got the arm as well. If you moved him over to third base, he'd be an elite defender there. So he's got half the game. And I think, when we look at sort of players, we're looking at the offensive side. That's typically what gets guys, names and billing and sort of the excitement going on around a player. Carlson hit, throughout his prep career. Is the power the loudest? No. But there's no reason to not view this guy who's an exceptional athlete, who's an exceptional defender, who has hit, shows bat to ball skills. Usually these guys that get shut down after the draft from the high school side that we don't see, they're working with player development, they're working with their own swing coaches, et cetera, in the offseason. They're adding good weight, and they're really, leaning into that hitting side of things. And I think with Carlson, he's such a good defender. It's not something that he necessarily has to spend extra time on. So I know the focus has really been improving the swing, getting to a little bit more power. There's more projection there in terms of adding good weight as well. And like I said, he was one of the better athletes in the high school class. So when we look at it from a projection standpoint, a projection play, we already know this guy could be, probably a 3-WAR player just based on the defense. If you can factor in average hitting like a Mason Wynn or someone like that, that's really a standout player that, when we sort of take a look back on the years past, we've been doing the list now for 37 years. We look at guys that have had 20 plus WAR. There's a lot of shortstops like that are within that range. So we felt that it was a good bet at the back of the list. And I know our guy, Carlos Colazo, that does our draft coverage, as well as Ben Badler, who does our underclass coverage on the high school side. They were both beating the drum for Carlson, really believed that, this could potentially be, a 55 or better. So an above average regular, maybe all-star for a couple of seasons at minimum. So there's a lot of upside there. I guess the big question is, will, the hit tool translate to professional baseball?
Yeah, fingers crossed. And hey, maybe he just comes out as a 19-year-old and looks like Connor Griffin, and next year we're talking about number 1 prospect Billy Carlson. It's a possibility. I don't think it will happen, but hey,
that's what Griffin was. Griffin was kind of the guy where it was like he's a super athlete. We know he's a great defender, whether he plays in the outfield, plays in the infield. He's got the 70 arm. Was a two-way guy, just like Carlson was, who was also very a standout pitcher with that Corona team. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of them, figuring out this one or two things in terms of the setup, swing path, et cetera, adjustment on hands, and guys take off. So it wouldn't be out of this world that happened, but certainly would be a a welcome surprise for White Sox fans.
Don't get my hopes up too much, Geoff. I was just mostly joking, but hey, if it happens, I'll welcome it. Ryan in the chat asks, are there any Sox prospects that didn't make the list that you're still impressed by? I'm going to take this in a different way. Maybe you could answer that as well, but was there any way that Hagen Smith didn't make the list at 91?
It's funny because Smith was a guy early on in the season as he went through his struggles, and they were pretty straightforward about making mechanical adjustments, shutting him down. If you watched any of the starts, the stuff was there. The swing and miss was still there. Velocity wasn't necessarily, but in terms of movement, how good that slider seemed, it was just really inconsistent. They seem to have figured that out, and he looked really good in AFL. That's tough to do. And I think scouts had sort of changed their opinion a little bit of like, no, this is still a college starter that has a track record, that has stuff and traits that we like. It's a lefty, unusual release traits, etc. So yeah, I think he was probably always going to be on the list. And I know that Josh Norris, our guy that's out in AFL for a few weeks a year, came back from AFL and was just more or less like, we got to get this guy back on the list. In terms of the feedback from scouts, they're not writing it off. The adjustments were made, fixed a couple things, and he's been better for it.
Yeah, and he really looked more like Hagen Smith down the end of the road, especially with the postseason run with the Barons. So, I mean, it definitely took a little bit of relief off of White Sox fans' shoulders. All right, we're halfway through here. Don't want to keep you for too long. 73, Braden Montgomery. I think some Sox fans are surprised by that because of how good Teal was, and this was supposed to be the other headliner with that Garrett Crochet trade. Him being ranked 73 isn't necessarily a bad thing, though, right? I think this is just a player with maybe more of an ETA than a longer ETA than maybe some Sox fans are thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. He was in Double-A for over a month last season. It wouldn't be shocking if he was up, let's say, like August or July, late July, especially if he really hits in Double-A and then kind of pushes it up to Triple-A. We've seen guys spend 2 weeks in Triple-A after a run of success for a month and a half in Double-A. He's got the tools to do it. I think we all also have to consider he was coming off a pretty catastrophic injury at the end of his college season that kind of shut him down. So, his offseason preparation, some of that work was adjusted. He had a full, healthy offseason this year. I think we look at the power. You look just in terms of what he did over his first year, fairly young, out of the draft, coming off that injury. 135 WRC plus at high, 133 WRC plus over that 34-game sample. So, still was well above the average in each of those leagues. We know he's got a huge arm as a guy that was, throwing 100 miles an hour as a pitcher when he was in college. Can make plays out there in the outfield. He's going to run a little bit, but I really think this is a guy that, next year we could be looking at a middle of the order with major power when you consider Colson Montgomery, Braden Montgomery, and then Murakami. There's 30-plus home run top in the bat.
Right. Is that the most intriguing tool then for Braden? Would you think is that ability to hit from power from both sides?
Yeah. I mean, there's just very few, switch hitting power hitters in the game that can sort of approach the power hitting ability that he has from both sides of the plate. It's a little stronger on the left side, obviously. He's going to see more at bats that way. But yeah, I mean, he's always been able to hit. There might be a little bit of swing and miss, but you're going to take that with a guy that, does get on base, hits for as much power as he does, and is like a no doubt, average or better corner outfielder with a big arm that's going to keep, the guys on base, a little scared to take that extra base when Montgomery's out there because he can sling it.
I haven't thought of comps much for Braden. I guess the one that pops to my mind being a switch hitting power hitter then for the outfielder is Santander. Is that?
Yeah, I think probably a little bit more athletic than Santander. Okay. Maybe, you're talking about a little bit less hit tool from like peak Anthony Santander. But yeah, not all that different. There's just not that many, switch hitting power hitters. Just a matter of like whether it's a fringe average hit tool or if it sort of gets to above average with those swing decisions and just coaxing a little more contact out of it.
Absolutely. And then let's get into the two top 30 prospects for the White Sox on Baseball America's Top 100. You can go read the rankings over at baseballamerica.com, and we are joined by Geoff Pontes over at Baseball America. Caleb Bonemer, last time we talked, you said Gunnar Henderson. it seems like, like Gunnar Henderson, we got a top 30 prospect in Caleb Bonemer. I know you were talking more about the behind the scenes stuff that compares him to Henderson. How do you see 2026 shaping up for Bonemer? Do you think that this is a player that can move quickly, or do you think that this is a player that they maybe need to give that time to develop in the lower levels?
Yeah, it's probably more of a 2027 ETA, like mid 2027. Even if he moves fairly fast, I think you're talking about a good chunk of time at high A this year. He hits there, gets to Birmingham. That's probably where his season ends, even if it's 40 or 50 games at Birmingham, which is a good sample. And then I think you're probably in the conversation for a guy that, if he really pushes and takes that big step forward, could potentially break camp. Or as a guy that's, maybe up late first half in 27, early second half in 27. I'll make a statement here too. I don't do our White Sox list. I don't rank this list. It's Bill Mitchell. Personally, my personal list, I have Caleb Bonemer as the number one prospect in this system. I would have Schultz down a little bit further on this list myself. I still think there's upside there, and we'll probably talk about Noah Schultz in a minute. For me, Caleb Bonemer is a top 20 prospect in the game, and I think is trending toward top 10. If he really hits, and he hits for power, hits for contact, stays on the left side of the infield, which is a little bit more of a question mark. If that all comes together this year and he does it at these higher levels against more advanced competition, with the amount of guys that are going to graduate from the top of this list, especially in that top 10, we have two pitchers that are right on the edge, and McLean and Savage, Connor Griffin, McGonigal, Clark, all those guys could be up in the big leagues. Jenkins could all be in the big leagues this year. There's going to be some guys that are going to backfill. He could move up quite a bit, and it wouldn't shock me if he jumps Schultz, especially if he shows out in the first month or so of the season in our first top 100 update. It would not shock me if he jumps Schultz.
When Caleb Bonemer makes his major league debut, I know who I'm calling to get that first reaction. I love it. I'm super thrilled. And I mean, you look at the grades that you guys give. It's a 55 hit grade, 60 power grade, 50 run, 50 field, 50 arm. I mean, again, that just screams maybe not 5 tool because they're not like 5 elite tools, but I mean, he's got everything that you want from a baseball player, and still that power is just so exciting for the middle infield that again, it's tough not to rank him, like you said, in the top 20. Let's get to Noah Schultz as you brought him up. It's a player that I understand why you'd put Bonemer over him. Again, like middle infielder that's going to play 162 games, potentially hit 25 to 30 homers, maybe even more. Like that's extremely, extremely tough to find. It's also tough to find like 6'10" dudes. Like, are you worried at all about his 2025, or do you think that this is large frame trying to figure out major league pitching, a player that's never pitched to college as well? Like, are you worried, I guess, about Schultz?
No, I'm probably more optimistic about Schultz coming out of 2025 going into 26 than I was in 24 going into 25, where the hype machine I thought was a little bit too high for a guy that had never pitched in the 5th inning in his life. I mean, even in high school, it was pretty much like 3 or 4 innings because it's IMG, so their game's a little different, right? It's different type of high school. He wasn't going deep. And, if you're a starting pitcher, I think the thing, especially one of the reasons that we gravitate toward college pitchers being successful major league starters is they pitch in pressure, in the bright lights of the SEC, or the, what used to be the Pac-10 or the Big Ten now, or the ACC. You're going into places of fan bases that actually show up for games, actually care about winning, and you're asked to pitch deep into games in pressure situations and get those outs. It's really tough to replicate that in a minor league environment. I love the minor leagues. There's very few fan bases in the minor leagues that are passionate and loud on a nightly basis. You're not going to run into that. I think as he got to AAA, got to bigger parks, was asked to go deeper into games in AA, he did to an extent pass that test. I think some of the locations, the command, just in terms of not just throwing strikes, but where you're landing those pitches in certain zones and staying out of like those trouble spots for certain hitters. I think that sort of stuff still needs to progress, but there's not a lot of guys that are this big that throw from that angle, that throw that hard with, that kind of sinker and slider movement. So there's still some stuff that he needs to sort of work out the kinks with. But I think when you look at, the larger picture, there's still a lot of stuff to like here. I just think there's, it was pump the brakes time a little bit in 2025 in terms of, all right, let's slow down a little bit before we're going to the Randy Johnson comps, and let's see this guy actually take that step forward and become, a starting pitcher and not just a guy with big stuff and weird angles that's going to dominate lower level hitters.
Yeah, I still feel like he's Randy Johnson. And even with Randy Johnson, it took Randy Johnson a long time to figure it out, Jeff.
It's not easy, man.
Maybe that's why I just said, just give Noah Schultz a contract until he's 40, and I'd love to figure out and just watch this whole, story unfold, right? Like, I don't even care if he's good or not. I just kind of want him to be a White Sox. Final last two questions for you. A lot of people are talking about the Luis Robert Jr. trade in the chat. What do you make of Luisangel Acuña as a prospect? Obviously, past fringe top 100 prospect over the past 2 years, now is graduated to the major league levels. Do you think that this is a player that might get more than 2 years of runway? Like, do you think that it might be a shot for 2026 on the major league level, and then the Sox really might question if he's really there or not? Because I think he's out of options.
Yeah, I mean, I would think he gets an opportunity here. They obviously like the player. I think he's very versatile defensively, can play all over the infield, can play all over the outfield. Really, the only place you're not going to put him is like first base, catcher, and pitcher. He's a good defender. I mean, he graded out as a good defender in each of his major league samples the last 2 years. The minor league numbers back that. He's an excellent contact hitter and is speedy. So I don't think it's all that different from like a more athletic, more twitchy Chase Mydroth. In terms of like the hitting profile, they're both guys that can hit. It's been proven at the highest levels of the minor leagues. Rarely miss in zone, both like elite contact rates, really good swing decisions. So he'll get on base as well. Only he has that ability to sort of steal a few more bases. He's not going to hit the ball that hard. He's not going to hit a ton of homers. You're probably looking at, 5 to 8 home runs a year, but could hit 280 with a good on base percentage, score a ton of runs, and steal 30 bags while playing second base, shortstop, maybe a little third base, as well as anywhere in the outfield. So he's really versatile. They have some redundancy, in that regard, with a guy like Mydroth. But I think building around some hit tools, especially at a point in time where contact is at a premium, guys that don't strike out are at a premium. We saw that play out with the Blue Jays. It's not necessarily the worst bets to place here on a young player that you have some team control on, you have some runway, and it's not that hard for a guy like this to sort of fit into the puzzle of a 26-man roster.
Yeah, like a lot of players on this roster, he's interesting. I don't know if he's any good, but he's interesting. So we'll figure him out. Final thing, and thank you for your time. I know you've been generous with your time. On the college preview of Baseball America is Roch Cholowsky. Sox have the #1 overall pick. Any initial thoughts on Cholowsky? Because it does seem like he's a player that, might be in the top 20 right out of the draft as a prospect. Have you seen, or do you remember a player that, instantly was a top 20 prospect right out of the draft like this?
Yeah, I think a lot of #1 prospects tend to be. But I think, he's above sort of that Eli Willits tier, even as much as I love him, the Travis Bazzana tier. You're talking more like an Adley Rutschman or, I don't want to say Chris Bryant just because of how elite the bat was, but it's more in that tier than it is, in like the Bazzana tier or there were a bunch of options at one. It's a no doubt shortstop, the ability to hit for power. I honestly think he'll probably jump into the top 10. And there's an article that's going to come out on the site tomorrow that sort of breaks down a bunch of the staff picks for who could be the #1 pick in 2027. I know there's at least 2 people on staff that have mentioned Cholowsky as a potential option. So I think when you consider that, top 20 is easy, probably more likely top 10. And this could be a guy, especially if he maybe gets a little sample size late in the season and really hits, wins the Golden Spikes, goes #1, all that sort of thing, could be in the conversation for the #1 prospect heading into 2027.
I'm glad I asked. Jeff, having you on the past 2 times have been fantastic. I love the White Sox propaganda that you're bringing to the show. Thank you so much for your time. Fantastic stuff on all those players. And make sure that you do check out baseballamerica.com, not only for the top 100, but like Jeff just mentioned, the article that's coming out tomorrow talking about who could be the #1 prospect in 2027. Make sure you follow Jeff on Twitter, Geoff Pontes, BA. Jeff, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, man. Glad to be on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited for Caleb Bonemer. Let's just get the season to start. February 15th can't come soon enough when pitchers and catchers and the whole team are fully reported. We have to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We will be back, and we'll talk about the Luis Robert Jr. trade. We will talk about Luisangel Acuña. Not going to say junior this time, and we will talk about possibly Harrison Bader. Hit that thumbs up button. We'll be back here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. What if you could have reliable and intelligent Wi-Fi, and what if you could keep it at the same price for 5 whole years? That's the Xfinity 5-year price guarantee. Imagine Wi-Fi that makes everything in your home work together, that finds and fixes problems before you even notice them, like super intelligent Wi-Fi, like with a 6th Sense. And it lets you stream games even when the whole family's online. All of your devices working in perfect harmony for 5 whole years. And here's the best part. There's no annual contracts, no hidden fees, and Xfinity's best equipment is included. So take it from me. A lot can change in 5 years. You know, maybe 5 years ago you were loving the potential of a number 88 in center field. And today you're mourning his career over. You never know what could happen. But with Wi-Fi, it should stay reliable and the price should stay put. Lock in your price and unlock the possibilities today with Xfinity. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. Select plans only. Restrictions do apply. And we want to let you know about our friends over at Huel. Can you believe that we're already a month into 2026? It doesn't mean you have to move away from your goals. Maybe you slipped off the horse, maybe fell off the horse for a week. Now is the time to get back on. And with Huel, it's a perfect solution for high-protein routine support for those busy days, to help habit build, and for convenience and control this year. You have the ready-to-drink protein drink that I have in my hand. There's also a powder. The ready-to-drink protein drinks are at 35 grams of protein. They have 27 essential vitamins and minerals. There's no artificial sweeteners, colors, or flavors. It's gluten-free, and it's under $5 a meal. It's a complete meal that you can literally grab and go. I'm not necessarily working out today, but I know that if I down this, I would be completely full, even if I missed lunch. So go check out our friends over at Huel. If you're trying to stay consistent, this combo makes it stupidly easy. The ready-to-drink and powder duo has basically become our insurance policy against chaotic days here at CHGO. So get Huel today with our exclusive offer, 15% off online with our code WhiteSox15. That's new customers only. Thank you to Huel for partnering and supporting our show. Head over to Huel.com/WhiteSox15. Welcome back to the CHGO White Sox podcast. We are going to take the temp with our friends over at Four Seasons. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric are your Chicagoland experts that have been serving you for over 50 years. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for money-saving coupons and all of their information. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. We're taking the temp of White Sox fans after the Luis Robert Jr. trade, and I'll talk more about what Geoff had to say in a second, and we'll talk a little bit about Harrison Bader, possibly. But I think the biggest thing that sticks out to me are 2 things. One, the mention that this is a salary dump, and then 2, doubting Chris Getz because of this. At the end of the day, they could have declined the option, they could have let him walk, and they could have gotten nothing. And I think that Chris Getz at least argued and fought for them to pick up that option. And I think that this trade vindicated his fight for that to at least get Acuña and Pauley. So I think Chris Getz, with his limited power, because at the end of the day, he does not control the budget, I think that he did a good job. Is it a good trade? No. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. It's not a good trade. Like, Luis Robert Jr. still has the most potential out of all of the players dealt. And Pauley could be a fun story, and I understand that he's an overslot player, but he's still picked in the 12th round. He's still coming out of Harvard. He only pitched 4 innings in A-ball. It's not a guy I want to, tie my horse to. And Acuña, I'm a little concerned. I liked what Geoff had to say about contact, but I'm not interested in a guy that really can't drive the ball. And especially in center field, I know people brought up Adam Eaton, who was able to play center field a decent amount, but unless you do have that elite top speed and can handle 162 games, I don't think these small players can really traverse center field in a meaningful way. I think Acuña would be fantastic in a corner. I think at left field, right field, I think Acuña might really be able to hold down that position. I think of Dominic Fletcher. Dominic Fletcher was fantastic in right field, couldn't play a lick in center field. So I think that at the end of the day, it's not a salary dump because a salary dump truly would have just been not picking up the salary at all. And I understand that you can be upset at Jerry Reinsdorf, have all the scorn and disdain for him in the world. That is fine with me. You can direct it directly towards him. But if it was a salary dump, we have to take in the other options. They could have eaten $10 million and traded him to Cincinnati for the same level of prospects. I don't think that they were getting anything interesting from Cincinnati, and they would have had to eat money. Like, Getz did what he had to do. I relate this to burying a family member. Give him a pat on the back. Couldn't be an easy thing to do, but you did a decent job. You gave a really good eulogy, right? You know, you remembered them well. That's what this feels like. This doesn't feel like, oh, the future of the White Sox are different. Like, no, the future of the White Sox has been exactly what it's been since 1981. Jerry Reinsdorf owns this team, and Jerry Reinsdorf is not about being fan-friendly. Jerry Reinsdorf is about making money. So, like, I'm not surprised by this. Yeah, it's a salary dump. Like, they're not making money. Like, they are. It's really difficult not to make money in Major League Baseball. But with CHSN, that, I'm trying to be nice here, failing, like they're not making money from CHSN. We're not buying CHSN. Nobody's supporting the Bulls right now. Nobody was supporting the White Sox last year. There's interest in the Blackhawks, but at the end of the day, the Blackhawks can't carry a TV network by themselves. Who else is watching CHSN, programming outside of that? Shout out to Connor McKnight. I think he does a fantastic job with Paul Yanish's Road to the Farm podcast. And I think that's a really fun thing. But like at the end of the day, like Jerry Reinsdorf and the Bulls and the Blackhawks, Reinsdorf owns the Bulls, so not really, but like he does. But you know what I'm saying? Like the White Sox and Reinsdorf and the Bulls, along with the Blackhawks, are footing the bill for CHSN, and it's not making them money. So when you bring in Ishbia, and part of that press release is saying that Ishbia is coming in to pay off debts, like, yeah, they're gonna look to save money. This doesn't look good right now. Getz today said some of that money that is saved, that $20 million, will be spent. I would like it to be on Harrison Bader. People have brought that up. Bruce Levine brought it up on the Score. I don't hate that signing. There isn't really a player that is a really great defender. Bader had a really good year with the bat last year at 122 weighted runs created plus, but fielding is really why I'm interested in him. He's hadn't had a negative defensive WAR in his season, at least when you're looking at defensive value on Fangraphs. Last year, 2.2, previous year, 7, previous year, 6.4. I think that this is a player that could just keep it afloat for you. Bader last year, 7 defensive runs saved in left field with Minnesota, 2 teams in center field, 6 defensive runs saved, and then right field, even last year, it was only 41 innings, no defensive runs saved, but he could play center, he could play left. I think Bader makes sense. So if they go sign Bader, I think Chris Getz is doing his job. Can you go to No Experts comment here? Here's a question at this point. Should we give Getz the benefit of the doubt yet? I think so. Like, this isn't a good trade, but this I don't think is on Getz. This is on the ownership. And what I think I've been able to see from Getz is he understands the ownership's downfalls. He's been able to expand their international scouting in pretty much 2 years. Like, now they're building a Dominican complex. They signed Braxton Brazier, or whatever the kid's name is, the top prospect in 2030, and they went out and got Munetaka Murakami. That's huge for the White Sox. They have made monumental strides over the past 2 years under Getz. So I don't really look at this as like a Chris Getz problem. Like, I think if you had to ask Chris Getz, you gave him truth serum, I think at the end of the day, he would rather have Luis Robert Jr. on the team. But he knows, like, unfortunately, the job that needed to be done, like akin to burying a family member, right? Like, you just had to get it done. So if Bader goes out and becomes their center fielder, I think that, like, that's Getz showing you that he knows what he's doing. I don't think that they're going to just let it die. Right now, I have them at $73.7 million. They are 29th in baseball, I think, in payroll. Maybe the Marlins are ahead of them. I know Fangraphs has the White Sox at $68 million, Miami at $69. Either way you cut it, they have a bottom payroll in Major League Baseball. I think it will change. I know Jerry Reinsdorf can spend more money than this on the team. They spent $185 million on the 2021 team, but that was my issue last night. It's not about the $20 million right now. It's about the mindless spending that you spent in 2021, the fact that you weren't able or willing to go to that 212 luxury tax threshold in 2021 and 2022, and this team had real true needs in right field, and they never got addressed. And then in 2023, you spent $75 million throwing it down the hole at Andrew Benintendi because for no real good reason. Like, the team has always spent their money absolutely terribly. So the fact that they're getting away with this money, it's not the end of the world for me. It's really what I expected. I just don't think it's a salary dump because Robert had value. And if it was a salary dump, it would be $20 million and just Pauley. Like, Acuña is something. Getz was a little bit too high on him, I think, when he was talking about Acuña earlier today. But he was talking about how good of an athlete was, how good of a defender he is. He said, we're talking about a player with 5+ years of control, one of the younger, exciting players in our game who really hasn't gotten a runway at the major league level yet. I do think that he's right that he hasn't gotten a runway at the major league level yet. Younger, exciting players in our game is a bit strong. I don't know about that. But Getz said, I know they didn't want to get rid of him. I know that. That's because of how valuable he can be to the team. Now he was on a roster that really didn't allow him to let him go out there and show what he could do on a regular basis. We'll be able to provide that. We'll see. I brought up that question to Geoff about how long do you think Acuña has of a runway, because I think it's about a year. I know he does have years of control, but he doesn't have any options. If he doesn't have a home in center field, where will he play? Maybe they'll be more interested in him at second base than Chase Mydroth. I think Acuña is a better athlete, but I just, this trade wasn't about prospects. It was really about getting rid of the money. So if you want to call it a salary dump, you can. I don't want to do that because I do think Getz had to do something that he didn't want to do. I think if Getz was only faced with that Cincinnati deal, he would have kept Luis Robert Jr. So I don't think this is on Getz, is my main point. I think it's on who you know it's on in Jerry Reinsdorf. And that's why I can't wait until 2029, 2034, because then we'll get a new owner. Fingers crossed, knock on wood. We're going to take a break here on the CHGO White Sox podcast. We'll come back. If you have any thoughts, let us know in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button. I think we got like 50 people watching and 20 likes. Hit that thumbs up button, please. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Winter is here. It is 0 degrees out. Is your home's heating up for the challenge? If not, call our friends over at Four Seasons. Four Seasons are your trusted local experts for heating, air conditioning, plumbing, electric, and generators. If you are thinking about a whole new home generator, they have you covered. At Four Seasons, they guarantee same-day installation for all your heating, cooling, plumbing, electrical, and generator needs with no extra charges for nights, weekends, and holidays. You can save up to $4,000 on furnace and comfort systems with Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. And furnaces start at $39 a month. At Furnace AC combos start at $57 a month. Call today and save $50 from your trusted local experts. Four Seasons heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and electric. They've been serving the Chicagoland area for over 50 years. So visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. That's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com. For all the right reasons, call 866 Four Seasons. We also want to let you know about our friends over at Ray Chevy. Our friends over at Ray Chevy are ringing in the new year in Fox Lake with hot deals all month long during their Ray Resolution sales event. Shop in today and drive home with 0% financing for 72 months, plus no payments until spring on all new Chevrolet models. Or you can check out their selection of over 125 vehicles priced under $20,000. With one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventory, you'll be sure to find the perfect vehicle for you. And as one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, they're able to keep their prices competitive, and you can walk in with Ray's Price Promise, promising that the price you see is the price you get. If you see a price online, that's the price that you'll get in store. If you see a price in the lot, that's the price you'll get in store. Go see it for yourself. Visit our partner at their convenient location on Route 12 in Fox Lake. And don't miss out on the Ray Resolution sales event going on all month long for 0% financing for 72 months and 0 payments until spring on all new Chevrolet models. Shop Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. Welcome back to CHGO White Sox podcast. Final thought on Luis, because I don't think I'm really cohesive on this, but I think Chris Getz is doing the best that he can do with a terrible position. If you do want to sell the team signs to right field, I think that's a fantastic idea. Tyler H. saying, if Reinsdorf doesn't want to spend, then why not just sell now? Again, he went to a selling agreement. They have agreed to sell in 29 to 2034. That's the most that you're going to get this old, stubborn man to budge. I don't know if you guys have been around. You have 1978, Tyler, in your handle. Do you know an old person that's refusing to give up power in any sense at any point? Like, look around in the world. Old people love to bog down society with their old thoughts. That's why he's hiring the septuagenarian in Tony La Russa in 2021. So, like, it's because he's an old man. He's about to be 90 years old in February. He thinks he can still do it. He likes making money. Like, I don't know why he doesn't sell the team. Sounds nice. I think Justin Ishbia is scratching and itching and dying to be the White Sox owner. So if Jerry sold today, I think Ishbia would be able to give him a big fat sack of cartoon money. You know what I'm saying? Like, remember those just bags of those burlap bags with the money symbol printed on them?
Yes.
Like, I think Ishbia is ready to give him all of that money. I agree with you. I wish White Sox fans had a better situation right now. You just have to be patient. It sucks. There's nothing that I can do about it. I do think Chris Getz is trying to make the best of the situation, but it sucks. Goop Like Soup asks, isn't he older than literal sliced bread? I don't think that's true. We did play that game. I think he's older than stop signs, like stoplights. So like the red, yellow, green, that's older than Jerry. That's younger than
We got to bring that segment back. That segment's like a couple years old now.
Pretty good segment.
That was a great segment.
I missed that one. Can you scroll up real quick? Tyler saying, though, it's a waste of time. I do believe Getz will sign some players and the team will be back better than most think. Yeah, my prediction was like 70 to 76 wins. I think it's probably closer to like 66 to 70 this year. I do think that they're likely in danger of not avoiding 100 losses. Like, I do think it's very possible that they can lose 4 straight. But if I was Chris Getz, I had $20 million. I'd like the idea of Chris Paddock in the rotation. I like the idea of Harrison Bader in center field. I don't really think that they need another reliever. If they want to, sure. But I think that's about 14 to 17 million right there with those 2 players. I think they're likely going to have some spring training invites or something like that. I just would be surprised if the salary cap went back to 90, if they're dumping salary. I don't know if they're fully going to invest all that 20 million. So we'll have to see. Colton also saying, if money is what he wants, why doesn't he just sell now instead of holding out until 2029, 2034? No, he wants power. He wants to be the owner of a baseball team. The thing that he enjoys most in life is baseball. I think, again, there's the quote that I've brought up several times on this podcast. I still cannot believe it's real. It's from an ESPN article from 2012 where they talked to Jerry Reinsdorf about the All-Star game, and he said that he wants to be at the 100th anniversary in 2033. If they have a brand new stadium or are building a brand new stadium, can have the 100th anniversary. Hey, I'm wearing the hat too. This is the 50th anniversary patch of the 1933 All-Star game, the first ever one being played at Comiskey Park. If they have a brand new stadium and he's still alive, wouldn't Jerry Reinsdorf love to be at the All-Star game? Like, this guy loves baseball in a very, very, very disgusting way. And it is holding back the team. But again, he's making money. Like, he has enough money to go build the 1934 project or whatever that's called over at United Center. He said he was willing to give $200 million to the funding of a construction of a new baseball team or baseball stadium. Like, there's one goal that he has in mind with the Chicago White Sox, and it's opening up another stream of revenue. And that's owning a stadium. Woohoo! Drake saying, I understand Jerry wants control, but I wish he stepped into a minority owner position until the 100th All-Star game. It's time for a new guard, especially with the looming lockout. Well, I think that's the other thing, too. 1994 should have been a great year for the Chicago White Sox. They had the best team in Major League Baseball. And then there's a strike. Who is one of the proponents as an owner of that strike? Jerry Reinsdorf. I think he loves getting into the business of baseball, trying to protect the game that he loves, by holding down players' wages and making it very lucrative for owners. Like Jerry Reinsdorf made a lot of money from the White Sox and Bulls. So yeah, I mean, he likely would get booed at the 100th All-Star game, but also he'd be there and he'd be laughing down from his box. Ha 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 ha. I have $1 million. I don't know. Yeah, it's just sucks. The other thing too, AJ on Foul Territory said today, apparently he's scratching his head at the timing of the White Sox latest trade. Why not move on from Luis Robert Jr. earlier so you have $20 million to spend throughout the entire offseason? Well, it's because no one was interested, AJ. I don't know if you were paying attention during the offseason, but there was a ton of rumors about the White Sox trying to trade him to the Reds, to the Pirates, to the Mets, to the Phillies. It needed a team willing to take on that $20 million. That's why it's happening January 21st, because the Mets didn't get Tucker, because the Mets didn't get Bellinger, the Mets didn't get, who else signed in the outfield? Whatever. They missed out. They didn't get the guys that they needed to get for their outfield. They didn't get Alonso. They scrambled. They had money. They spent it on Luis Robert Jr. I wish it happened sooner. I am with Geoff. I think that they should have traded him after 2023. And that seems like, if you're looking in hindsight, like the biggest mistake of Chris Getz's GM is he should have traded him the second that he took over. He took over August 31st, so he would have to wait until the offseason of 2024. But he should have traded Luis Robert Jr. at that time. It didn't happen, but hey. Southside Jeff asking, have we tried having 3 ghosts visit Jerry?
That's my favorite comment I think I've ever received.
Anyone know any ghosts? Yeah. I mean, hey, it happened to Mike Ilitch. Maybe it happens to Jerry Reinsdorf.
I do feel that way, though. I feel like he needs something drastic to change his heart, because what he knows what he's doing is selfish, and he's just a selfish owner.
Yeah. I mean, he's a businessman. So
no, I get it.
Well, I mean, that's a slur, I think. I do think that businessmen are rotting America. That's a different topic for a different day.
I think 3 ghosts will fix Jerry.
I would hope 3 ghosts would fix Jerry. It's just, it's all about profit. It's all about winning. And not winning on a baseball sense. Again, there's that horrific quote to David Sampson that he made David Sampson walk back. But Sampson clearly at some point thought Jerry Reinsdorf told him the best thing that you could do it as an owner, even if this was joking or not, is finish in second place to have the team and the fans be excited for next year, to give them hope, right? It's not winning a championship. It's about the hope of possibly winning a championship. So, yeah.
Quick question. Who would be his Marley?
It's Charles Dickens, right?
Yeah, the first ghost that visits him to then start the past, present, future.
It'd probably be Bill Veeck.
Yeah.
Because that's the guy that was all about ownership and fun and fandom. The second ghost is Andy the Clown. The White Sox made this fan who was doing this out of the goodness of his heart, walking around in a creepy clown mask, stop being a clown, to the point where he felt betrayed by the organization and stopped being a Sox fan. So shout out to Andy the Clown. Andy the Clown would be the second ghost. And then the third ghost would probably be Eddie Einhorn. So there's the 3 ghosts at this point, because that's the guy that got in with him. And he's probably like, Jerry, you're not the person I knew, you know? It's just, yeah, not good. And hey, thank you to Baseball Player Zero for saying, like the hat and the hoodie. I have to remember the good times. There was one season where Jerry Reinsdorf did it, folks. And I have to remember that, or I'll cry. I'll cry. I think that's going to do most of it. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't already. Make sure you subscribe to the CHGO Sports YouTube channel. 4 episodes this week with the Emergency Podcast. If you do have any thoughts, again, hit me up on Twitter. You can also, as a diehard, chat with us in the Discord. I know people are upset with this. Luisangel is a cool name. So, maybe that's the biggest takeaway, is that I don't know if Luisangel Acuña is cool or is good or talented or going to be a part of the future, but he's got a cool name. So let's go. There you go. Yeah. He's tiny too. He's only 5'8". So appreciate it. And thank you very much to Geoff Pontes of Baseball America for joining us. Thank you to Sarah for producing the show. Also, shout out to Joey Christopoulos for being my guest booker and booking Geoff Pontes. So thank you very much. And Chicago Hitman, I think this is a perfect way to take us out. We're all at the mercy of billionaires. Yay!
We all silly like the mayor.